Hello, and welcome to Red Rock Central's 2020 Veterans Day program. I am Mr. Ewing, Red Rock Central Junior Senior High Principal, and we want to thank you for joining us this morning. When Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner almost 200 years ago, he called America the land of the free and the home of the brave. Those words are as true today as they were then. Throughout this nation's history, American soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen have bravely answered the call to defend our freedom, to aid our friends and allies, and turn back aggressors. We can never fully repay our debt of gratitude to the more than 650,000 American service members who have died in battle, or the 1.4 million who were wounded. We can, however, recognize and thank the 25 million veterans still living today. These words are inscribed on the Korean War Memorial in Washington, D.C. Our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and a people they've never met. Those words apply equally to many of our World War I, II, Vietnam War, and Gulf War veterans as well. They apply to today's active service members, tomorrow's veterans, who are helping to maintain peace throughout the world. Today, it is our privilege to say thank you to all of America's veterans, to let them know that we appreciate them for their service and honor them for their sacrifices. The price of freedom is high. We cannot afford to forget those willing to pay it. Today, we celebrate Americans' veterans for keeping this nation the land of the free and the home of the brave. At this time, I would ask you to please rise for the playing of the Star-Spangled Banner by the RRC Band under the direction of Mrs. Tasha Frazier. After the playing of the National Anthem, we will also recite the Pledge of Allegiance. This will be led by the senior English class of Mr. Chris Baker.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi, my name is Ethan Price, and I was elected Student Body President for Red Rock Central. And today I'll be sharing with you a history on Veterans Day. Soldiers from wars, both old and new, marched down city streets. Flags hang from homes, businesses, and even car antennas. Ceremonies remember those who honorably served their nation. It's Veterans Day, a time to honor those in the armed forces. It all began in a railroad car, with a document to end the war of all wars, World War I. This war shocked the global community with its toll on human life. Millions were killed. Germany was running low on manpower and supplies, so they agreed to sign an armistice, or truce. This took place in the private rail car of French commander Ferdinand Foch. On the 11th hour of the 11th day on the 11th month of 1918, all is quiet on the Western Front. The fighting has ended. Exactly 1 year later, President Woodrow Wilson decreed that Americans should observe a moment of silence at 11 a.m. to remember the armistice and to embrace the peace. In America, the nation's first unknown soldier was laid to rest in the Arlington National Cemetery on Armistice Day in 1921. He was a casualty of World War I. Since that first memorial, other unknown soldiers from American war have been interred in the tomb. It's become a tradition for the president to lay a wreath on the monument every November 11th. A resolution was passed in 1926 inviting all Americans to remember Armistice Day and the soldiers who fought so hard for peace. The idea caught on, and by 1938, the day was marked with many ceremonies and parades. The Congress made it a legal holiday. After World War II and the Korean War, Americans wanted to open up the holiday to include not just World War I veterans, but all those who have served in combat. In 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower, a World War II vet himself, legally changed Armistice Day to Veterans Day, honoring those who served in all American wars. Over the decades, the holiday has changed with times. Originally, it was a call for world peace, but then in the US, it became a day to remember war veterans. Today, Veterans Day is set aside to honor not just those who served in the war, but those who have served in the nation's time of peace. From our nation's beginning until today, our veterans have played an important role in our history, both on and off the battlefield. So please, join us in celebrating and thanking these honorable Americans.
Veterans Day speaker this year is Jonathan Jekyll. John is a retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel that now works at Rock Island Arsenal in Illinois. During his time in the Army, John served on tours to Germany, Iraq, and Afghanistan. He is a graduate of the U.S. Army School of Advanced Military Studies and is also a graduate of Sanborn-Lamberton High School.
Thank you all very much for being here, and thank you for inviting me to join you at this Veterans Day observance. A special thank you to everyone participating in this observance and to those who helped put this event together. The fact that you gave of your time and effort is a true living tribute to the veterans who give so much of themselves and who we honor today. Today we celebrate Veterans Day and recognize all who have served and continue to serve our nation with honor and distinction. But as much as veterans sacrificed for the good of this country and countless others around the world, we could not have done it alone. I know this day is to recognize veterans, but today I would also like to remind you that veterans are really standing on the shoulders of giants, and that the contributions of all Americans working together is what enables them to deploy around the world and routinely do things that no other nation in the world can do. Veterans Day was originally Armistice Day, and 101 years ago today, the guns fell silent on the First World War. In 1938, Armistice Day officially became a national holiday in the United States. This was the year when Europe seemed on the verge of another war, and 1 year later, World War II began with Germany's invasion of Poland. America entered the war in 1941, and the description of our previous military involvement as the war to end all wars took on a bitter and ironic meaning. This year, as we commemorate the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II, we also remember the contributions of veterans, workers, and farmers from the greatest generation. World War II changed a generation of people. 16 million Americans officially served in it, and that doesn't count all of the contractors and civilian labor back home who supported it. Women worked in factories. Farmers picked up the pace to feed allies whose farmland had become battlefields. The so-called $1-a-year men were also recruited to serve from industry and to serve on the War Production Board. All Americans had to pull together to help the Allies win that war. When the war ended in Europe in the spring of 1945, America celebrated. But for soldiers still in service, the war wouldn't really be over until it was over in the Pacific Theater. In mid-August, Japan surrendered unconditionally and signed the formal agreement on September 2nd, finally ending the war. Stateside, cities held ticker tape parades and celebrated. The week after Japan surrendered, the Washington Post reported that customers could now buy all the gasoline they wanted. Officials raised the speed limit from 35 to 50 miles per hour on highways. Some foods that had been rationed were now freely available. And across the country, workplaces were returning to their regular 40-hour, 5-day-a-week schedules instead of 48-hour-a-week schedules. 2 days after Japan capitulated, the federal government quickly relaxed their restrictions on producing consumer durable goods, including automobiles, refrigerators, washing machines, and other things. Gasoline, canned fruits and vegetables, fuel oil, and oil stoves were no longer rationed. The Berlin Airlift, the Marshall Plan, and their equivalents in Japan rescued millions of former enemies from starvation and helped shape the peaceful, prosperous, and free Europe and Japan of today. In the long term, economists predicted high employment as industry pivoted to producing peacetime goods. But in the short term, they expected a temporary surge in unemployment, as war workers were now out of a job and men and women were released from armed services. However, America continued to stand together even after the war ended and a strange new Cold War began. Administrations from both parties understood that a strong, free, and prosperous nation and our allies were key to keeping those insidious threats at bay. Prosperity also provided the foundation for the free people of the world to sustainably stand up to these threats that willfully starved their people to feed their war machines. Standing united, we defeated that threat too, and the world enjoyed an era of unprecedented peace and prosperity. On the way, we landed men on the moon, explored the solar system, defeated disease and natural disasters, and improved the quality of life worldwide. Billions of people are alive and healthy today because of the Green Revolution, mostly powered by the United States. But threats loom on the horizon again, and this time they are actively seeking to turn Americans against each other. They seek to achieve their diabolical goals below the threshold of conflict. They can get away with a lot more if they can keep us busy fighting amongst ourselves and unchecked, they will be eventually too powerful for us to defeat if it comes to conflict, especially if the roots of our power rot beneath our feet. Regardless of who you just voted for, America needs you all more than ever. We won the big wars and the Cold War of the past by standing united and finding a way to work together. Even if we had our differences, we probably stood united as Americans and brought freedom, prosperity, and peace to the world. Today, I implore you to think about the hard work and ingenuity past generations poured into making this the greatest nation on earth, and to rise up and do your part today. The greatest gift you could give veterans is to help us win without the need for sacrifice on the battlefield. Each year, we set this day aside all across the country to celebrate and pay tribute to America's veterans for their devotion, patriotism, selfless service, and sacrifice on behalf of us all. But veterans should not and do not have a monopoly on these virtues. Each and every one of us can serve in our own way. Our nation's veterans throughout our history kept us free, returned home, and continue to serve our nation in a multitude of ways. Today we say thanks to them all, and I say thanks to all those in and out of uniform who poured their blood, sweat, and tears into making victory possible. You can do great things for your country without becoming a veteran, and I implore each and every one of you to find ways to work with your neighbors and to make this country stronger than ever. Thank you for inviting me here today, and to our veterans, thank you for your service.
On Veterans Day, we honor all who answered to our service call. Soldiers young and soldiers old fought for freedom, brave and bold. Some have lived while others died. All of them deserve our pride. We're proud of all the soldiers who kept thinking of red, white, and blue. They fought for us and all our rights. They fought through many days and nights. Although we may not know each name, we thank all veterans just the same, by Cheryl Dyson.